Welcome to Dialogues for Change. Life is not a void to be filled. It is a plenitude to be discovered. Today, I would like to share with you some thoughts on Ayurveda. Or rather, I would like to share with you a little introduction to Ayurveda, which is taken from this beautiful book, Chinese Medicine and Ayurveda, by Robert Svoboda and Arnie Lade. So Arnie Lade is presenting an introduction to Chinese medicine, and Robert Svoboda is presenting an introduction to Ayurveda, and then they try to compare these two systems a little. It's a very interesting book, very inspiring. The word Ayurveda, which comes from the Vedas, the ancient sacred books of the Aryans, means the lore of life. Ayurveda, whose origins go back at least 5,000 years, began as an appendix to the youngest of the Vedas, the Atharva Veda. Most of the Vedic healing lore occurs in the Atharva Veda, which is basically a manual of magic. After its incantational medicine evolved into empirical medicine, the most important of all Ayurvedic texts, the Charaka Samhita, appeared, possibly between the 8th and 10th centuries before Christ. Ayurveda's most famous surgical text, the Sushruta Samhita, was also compiled around this time. While these texts may have had single authors, they are more likely to be compilations of material from many sources. Ayurvedic medicine was already extensively developed by the time of Gautama Buddha, and the Buddha supported both the study and the practice of medicine. Since the days of Charaka and Sushruta, Ayurvedic students started dissecting human corpses, practicing the arts of surgery on dummies, and learning other practical arts such as cookery, since diet was an essential aspect of treatment, the collection and preparation of herbs, horticulture, and the purification and preparation of mineral medicines. Each student usually specialized in one of Ayurveda's 8 limbs: internal medicine, surgery, eye, ear, nose, gynecology, obstetric, pediatrics, psychology, toxicology, rejuvenation, and virilization. At the end of the period of study, the disciple was thoroughly tested, and after graduation was given a license to practice by the king. After Ashoka, the emperor of most of North India, about 3 centuries before the birth of Christ, embraced Buddhism, he furnished extensive support to medicine and built charitable hospitals, including specialized surgical, obstetric, and mental facilities throughout his realm for both humans and animals. And his emissaries spread Buddhism and Indian sciences in far-off lands, including Central Asia and Sri Lanka. During the later Indian empires of the Guptas and the Mauryas, the government expanded this active support for medicine by planting gardens of medicinal herbs, establishing hospitals and maternity homes, posting physicians in villages, and punishing quacks who tried to practice medicine without proper learning and imperial license. During this era, Ayurveda was taught in large Buddhist universities, like the one at Nalanda, established during the 4th century AD, and which flourished for about 800 years. Students came from all over the world to study at these universities. More texts appeared, including Bhagavata's Ashtanga Sangraha, collected teaching of the 8 limbs, and Ashtanga Hridaya, heart of the 8 limbs. These are condensations of Charaka and Sushruta's teachings, and Madhava's Madhava Nidana, text on diagnosis. Ayurveda was not limited to humans. Texts on the treatment of trees, horses, and elephants still exist, and may have existed for such varied animals as cows, goats, sheep, donkeys, camels, and hawks. The golden age of Indian culture ended when Muslim invaders inundated northern India after the 10th century. They slaughtered the Buddhist monks as infidels, destroyed the universities, and burned the libraries. Those who could escape fled to Nepal and Tibet, and hence some Ayurvedic texts whose originals were lost at the time survive solely in the Tibetan translation. Though the Muslim conquerors imported their own system of medicine into India, Fortunately, Ayurveda did survive, as did the Hindu culture. In the 13th or 14th century, a treatise on Ayurvedic pharmacology, the Sharm Gandhara Samhita, appeared, and during the 16th century all Indian medical knowledge was collected and compiled by the order of the Mughal Emperor Akbar. The conquest of the Europeans, however, were nearly fatal to Ayurveda, especially after 1835, when the British decided neither to recognize nor support Indian sciences in their Indian dominions. While the Germans and later on Westerners developed plastic surgery from Sushruta's operation for repair and damaged noses and ears, it took the upsurge of Indian nationalism at the beginning of the century to reawaken interest in the native Indian arts and sciences in India itself. Ayurveda began its renaissance then, and today it is one of the 6 medical systems in India which is officially recognized by India's government, the others being Allopathy, Unani, Siddha, Homeopathy and Naturopathy. The system of Ayurveda is based on the Sankhya philosophy. So just a few words on Sankhya philosophy. The evolution of the universe as detailed in the Sankhya system, one of the 6 systems of philosophy in India, forms the foundation for most Ayurvedic theories. Yoga uses the same approach with only minor alterations. In the Sankhya philosophy, everything evolves from an absolute reality, Purusha, which is consciousness, without any characteristic whatsoever, beyond time, space and causation, a single point which encompasses everything and which cannot be perceived by mind or accurately described in human language. All potentialities exist within. Absolute reality in an unmanifested state. From this absolute reality evolves relative reality, a sublime creative force called nature, Prakriti. The sole difference between nature and absolute reality is that the absolute knows itself to be identical to nature, whereas nature believes itself to be different from the absolute. This passive awareness of difference then evolves into an undifferentiated intelligence, Mahat, a faculty through which this difference is actively perceived. Intelligence is thus nature's unlimited self-awareness. This undifferentiated intelligence then individuates into discrete bundles of limited self-awareness called ego, ahamkara. Each of these is self-aware, but aware only of that limited parcel of being with which it identifies. Nature as manifested through individual bundles of ego has 3 attributes, gunas. Sattva, equilibrium, rajas, activity, and tamas, inertia. Rajas is movement, tamas matter, and sattva that subjectivity which perceives matter. Sattva evolves into the thinking mind, the 5 senses of perception and the 5 senses of action, communication, manipulation, locomotion, procreation and excretion, represented in the human body by voice, hands, feet, genitals and anus respectively. Tamas evolves into the object of the cognitive senses, sound, touch, form, taste and odor, which in turn produce the 5 great elements, Pancha Mahabhutas, which make up the physical universe, ether, air, fire, water and earth. Rajas is the force which brings the senses and the objects together. I go to sleep as I at night and wake up as I the next morning, because ahamkara identifies I with a particular body, a certain set of habits and preferences, and specific desires and disgusts. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the 3 powers through which ahamkara creates self-image. The 5 great elements are really states of matter. Earth is the solid state, water the liquid state, air the gaseous state, fire the power to change the state of any substance, and ether the field which is both the source of all matter and the space in which it exists. Ether is the most rarefied stage of matter, and earth the solidest. Every substance in our world is made up of these 5 elements and can be classified according to which element is predominant. Things which are solid under normal conditions are composed primarily of the earth element. Substances which are normally gases are mainly composed of air. and anything which is usually liquid is mainly made of water. Reactive or unstable substances are usually fiery in nature, and ether predominance in a substance is shown by its rarefaction or lack of density. Our physical bodies are also made up of these 5 great elements. In fact, the law of microcosm and macrocosm, according to the Charaka Samhita, states that everything that exists in the vast external universe, the macrocosm, also appears in the internal cosmos of the human body, the microcosm, in altered form. The universe is thus continually influencing us, and likewise we influence it. Prana, subtle fire, tejas, and essence, ojas, are the quintessential expressions of the 5 elements as applied to embodied life. Furthermore, prana, subtle fire, and essence individually express the intrinsic attributes of air, fire, and water elements, respectively in their greatest degree. Prana is the life force, the power which holds body, mind, and spirit together, and compels them to function together. Prana is not air, though oxygen is one of its vehicles. Subtle fire causes the transformations necessary to allow influences to pass from one plane of existence to another. And essence is a subtle glue which cements body, mind, and spirit together, integrating them into a functioning individual. These traditions of healing are amazing in terms of knowledge. And I hope that this first little introduction, the book is really a very good book, grab it and have a look at it, may trigger your curiosity to learn about these other systems of knowledge, to enter into a dialogue with them. Nobody has a monopoly on health. Neither this system, neither Chinese medicine, neither modern Western medicine. What does it mean to be healthy? What does it mean to be whole, in harmony with oneself, others, our environment, and maybe beyond? All this is part of health, especially if we understand it as Ayurveda does it, as maybe the science of life. I hope that these thoughts inspired you today on this Sunday, 30th of March 2014. Thank you.